On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, the NFL is here. Football is back. Congratulations to everybody that racked up those likes, those retweets by just tweeting those words. I'm so jealous, TJ, of people that just do that. That just are like, football, and then it's 10,000 likes. I need to get in on that. The NFL is back. If you're listening to this, the Lions on Friday, which is everybody, the Lions and Chiefs played last night. I'm gonna prediction. Chiefs won. The Chiefs won, and the Chiefs actually are still very good, and the Chiefs won. That's gonna be those are my NFL takes all year. Is just like the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are gonna win. I just think the Chiefs are gonna. No, to get fired up for NFL Week 1, I reached out to my buddy Kevin Clark. He is launching a new venture with ESPN and Omaha. This is Football is what it is called. Kevin and I used to work at the Ringer together forever, it felt like, and he was the best, and he's one of the guys that I've kept in close contact with since I left the Ringer, and he's just so good at he's so good at this job. He's so good at coming on a show like this and talking football, and we took it to a bunch of different directions as he and I are apt to do from time to time. We go off on tangents, but it's a fun conversation. I am very much into the NFL, contrary to popular belief. I watch a ton of NFL. I don't always know what I'm watching, but I freaking love it, just like everybody else in this country. So I wanted Kevin to come on and chat with us, and he did that, and we had like an hour-long conversation about all sorts of things, including at the very end the Miami Hurricanes basketball program, which he is a massive fan of, and I love talking to him about as well. So without further ado, please enjoy a little NFL primer with the one and only Kevin Clark. Kevin Clark is the host of This Is Football, a new Omaha ESPN joint venture. You'll never guess what he plans on talking about on that show. Great title for a show, Kevin. He is a former Ringer colleague of mine. He's a lousy golfer. He's a new father. He's a great hang, and he joins me now to talk about the NFL a little bit. How are things, Kevin? How you doing?
I feel like the lousy golfer thing is a little outdated. We played during the pandemic. You were complaining because the Sturgill Simpson Tyler Childers concert has been canceled. So you spent the entire round the last time we played playing Tyler Childers over and over again and going, God.
If only I could be there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a weird vibe.
It was. Was that the last time we golfed? Was that long ago?
Yeah. It was in the Valley. You were talking a lot about Tyler Childers.
You've gotten better?
I took some lessons.
Okay.
And I actually played a lot when I lived in Brooklyn, which I know seems antithetical. Like I would just drive out to Bethpage and play all the time. Now that I have a baby, I have an 8-month-old, it's a little harder. Having said that, counterbalance, I have a backyard, so I can do full swings in the backyard. And that has made all the difference. All the difference.
I apologize. We got to update I got to update your information that I have here. My database, my Rolodex says one of the bullet points is bad golfer, but we got to update that. All right, let's talk about a little NFL. So we're recording this before the Chiefs play the Lions. So anything you or I say about the Chiefs or the Lions does not count, like if tonight.
Well, also, like Travis Kelce is a game time decision. So like anything we say now, we're basically protected because Travis Kelce can go either way.
I just want to, because we're going to put this out obviously tomorrow morning after the game. So if we're like both really loving the Chiefs and they lost by 3 touchdowns, that doesn't count. We can't
Travis
be held accountable.
Travis Kelce's got an injury.
Yeah.
He's banged up.
Right.
Even if he plays, you get to go, he's banged up. That's a classic media thing. He's banged up. Also, if you say he's banged up, it allows you to not have to Google the specific injury he has, which is a classic sports media talk radio thing.
I also think with the Chiefs, they've reached the benefit of the doubt level where even if they lose or they start like 0-3, you can just shrug your shoulders and be like, they're waiting for the real games to start. Like this doesn't count. Like this, I'm not concerned with them because they've been here before. This doesn't matter, So if you're really high on the Chiefs and they start 0-3 for whatever reason, you have that as a cop out as well. Where you're like, yeah, they're bored. They're just bored. They're bored. That's all
I think with a team like the Chiefs, there's like, do you know the meme of like stupid person has a thought and then like average person has a different thought and then the smart person has the same thought as a stupid person? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Like I think a lot of times like it's with a team like the Chiefs, it'll be like the most like Johnny Six Pack at the sports bar at the Ale House in Orlando is like, yeah, the Chiefs will be fine. And then like the medium average viewer is like, I don't know, man. Chris Jones isn't in the building. Their secondary needs a little work. Travis Kelce's banged up. Creed Humphrey's the best player on their line, but they still have concerns there. And then the smart person's like, yeah, they'll figure it out. They're good. They got Patrick Mahomes. And I think
Yeah,
with that kind of opinion, like sometimes we can overthink it. So I think just defaulting to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid will figure it out is actually like we learned so much from the Patriots over like 25
right.
years where we're just like, yeah, I don't know, man. Seems like things are weird, but I'm sure they'll get that sorted out.
Yeah, that I guess that as a guy who doesn't live and breathe the NFL 365 days a year, but I still follow it, because you have to. If you're a sports fan in this country, you have to have some level of interest in the NFL. It is very strange to me going into this NFL season that does seem to be like a trendy thing to say that the Chiefs might fall off. When I felt like this was, again, I might be wrong, Kevin, but this was my perception going into last season, was that people were saying that about the Chiefs, and then they won the Super Bowl. So I sort of get it. We both know how sports media works. You want to be ahead of the curve, so if you keep going to that well and saying that the Chiefs are going to fall off, eventually you're going to be right. I'm confused. I feel like we're pulling the trigger on this a little soon when Patrick Mahomes is 27 years old, and like he's not going, like that's the part that's confusing to me as a guy who doesn't live in this world. Why are people pulling the trigger so quickly on this and saying this might be the year the Chiefs fall off?
So I think not a ton of people are saying that. I think that picking the Chiefs is chalk, but I will say I'm picking the Bengals. And the reason I am, first of all, Chris Jones, not to belabor the point, Chris Jones, who's their second best player, is in a contract dispute. He'll probably sit out if he stays on this. And you never know. Nick Bosa agreed to terms just yesterday. But if he really wants to sit out, he'll do so for the first about month and a half. And then he'll try to report so his contract doesn't, so his contract control and all that stuff. But there's not a lot of like established weapons outside of Travis Kelce. But I think the bigger issue is that AFC football in general, because of the way the quarterbacks are now stacked in the conference, it's a little bit like golf and pro golf, where like there's 15 guys on the tour that should win every week. Like John Rahm should win every week.
Right.
But so should, like, when Colin Morikawa is locked in his ball striking, it's like whatever. Hideki Matsuyama should just win every tournament, right? You look at it like I gamble on golf like a moron, and I just look at ball striking every single week, which is the most important metric, approach shots, right? And I'm always just like, oh, cool. There's 11 guys I should be betting my mortgage on, right? And like that's kind of the AFC where it's like, all right, the Bengals roster stacked with Joe Burrow, the Jets and had a fast as hell defense and a dominant front seven. Great skill guys, and they replaced Zach Wilson, the worst quarterback in the NFL, with Aaron Rodgers, right? Mike McDaniel worked miracles in Miami. Justin Herbert, obviously is trying to lift his weird franchise across the finish line a little bit. Like, there's just so many teams where you're just like, shit, it's their year. And then the Chiefs, if you're trying to be provocative, the Chiefs can become an afterthought in that particular prism.
Yeah, I had I saw the Chicago guys here at Barstool said something like they think that there's a world where Justin Fields could become the second best quarterback in the NFC this year. And I, as a guy who loves Justin Fields as much as anyone, I was like, whoa, that feels pretty ambitious. And then I like sat and thought about who the quarterbacks in the NFC are, and I was like, maybe not. So to your point, it does feel extremely lopsided that the AFC is.
It's ridiculous.
And
I want to say something about Justin Fields real quick. So Justin Fields came on my show Sony's Day a couple months ago. He's amazing, great hang. You were talking about great hangs. Don't know about the golf, but great hang. But RG3 was on my debut show, This Is Football, the aforementioned one, and he said that Justin Fields is the guy who's going to take a Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen style leap. That was his phrase.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
I am very good at one thing, which is I don't actually agree with him, but I shut up so that I could just let him go and then clip it and then put it on social. And I'm going to put it out tomorrow morning. It's going to get Bears fans just like rollicking into the weekend. They're going to play it on a fucking big screen on Rush Street. Like I love when people come on my show and create content for me, especially with Justin Fields.
I really didn't mean to bring up Justin Fields so quickly because I feel like we could just I personally could talk about Justin Fields for like 5 hours. He's my favorite quarterback that's ever played at Ohio State. I love his charisma. I love how talented he was. Everything about him I freaking love. What I don't love, Kevin, is the haters. I don't love the haters.
Yeah.
Why? What? So The guy is not without criticism. I don't think he's a perfect quarterback. What I don't fully understand is why Bears fans, and I'm not even a Bears fan, I'm just a Justin Fields fan, so it makes no difference to me if the Bears go 500 this year, miss the playoff, whatever. I just want Justin Fields to ball out. I want Justin Fields to play well. It's kind of hard for him to be, a great quarterback and the Bears not be good, but whatever. Why can't the haters just like let the Bears fans and let the Justin Fields fans just like be optimistic? Like why?
Yeah.
This is what's confusing to me. I understand if like the Patriots say, let's use them as an example, or like we think that we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I understand if you're an NFL fan, you're like, shut up already, because the Patriots have dominated the NFL. We're sick of like, New England running things. So like, go sit over there for a second. Let us all talk. The Bears have never been a threat. Justin Fields is a new quarterback. Like, what does it hurt the rest of the NFL?
Yeah.
If we just want to be like, listen, if Bears fans want to say we found our guy, or an Ohio State guy like me is like, we finally have a great quarterback in the NFL. Why can't we just have that? Why can't we just have that, Kevin?
A couple of reasons. I think you already brought it up. The NFC's wide open. And so everybody's feeling a little insecure, right? Think about the Packers. Normally, it would be, and the Packers and the Bears hate each other, obviously, the fans. Normally, it would be, all right, we have Aaron Rodgers, we have a stacked roster, we're probably going to make the NFC Championship game. Like, we'll make fun of Bears fans, but it won't be as heated. Now they have to pump up Jordan Love. The Vikings have some sort of case to being a contender this year because of how they played last year with Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, who I think is one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. You wouldn't talk about. I really do like Kirk Cousins, but a bit of a depleted talent pool when that's happening. The Lions are on the ascent. So I think it's more like NFC North bickering. Like, I'm from Florida and I'm a huge college football fan. And it doesn't matter what's happening. Miami, Florida, and Florida State people on Twitter are just fighting. Like, it'll be, God bless them, but it'll be like May 3rd. And you'll see like some Florida fan send a tweet that's from like 6:49 a.m. just being like, I don't think Miami's secondary is going to make it through the ACC. And it's just like, what is happening here? Like even this week, like Florida State are legitimate playoff contenders. And every Florida State fan I've seen on the timeline is talking about how Miami has tickets to sell to Texas A&M. And it's like, what is happening here? Why? And I think you see that a little bit in the divisions in the NFC North in particular, where everybody has to be fighting at all times. And Justin Fields has become a flashpoint because everybody in the NFC North has a leg to stand on, including the Bears, because of how talented a rusher Justin Fields is. His running records last year were on par. If you look at 50-yard rushing games plus touchdowns, on par with Gale Sayers, right? Like that's what we're talking about as a runner. As a passer, he needs to improve a little bit, but I don't think nearly as much as people think because of how much stress the running puts on the defense, right? And I've told the story a million times. I remember going to Baltimore a couple of years ago and doing a story on Lamar Jackson's rookie year, and there were tight ends on Baltimore, linemen on Baltimore, who were saying that there were linebackers in the other team who would just look at the bench, their own bench, when Lamar Jackson was running and throwing and just being like, what do I do? And the coach is being like, I don't fucking know. And it's like, when you have that kind of athleticism and speed that Justin Fields does, it doesn't take a lot for those passing lanes to open. And so I always look at it like everybody's like, oh, Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, he's better have a plan for Justin Fields. I look at it the opposite way. Like, you should be excited about coaching Justin Fields. You should be excited about being able to take a talent like that and morphing him into something really special, which I think he has the capability to be. I just think there's a lot of hesitant to use this word in a draft context, but a player who's had the 2 years he has, there is boom bust potential. And if he has a bad season this year, people just start asking questions. So I just think the division itself is so on such a knife's edge that I think everybody is fighting with everybody.
Yeah, it's just crabs in a bucket mentality, I guess, in the NFC, and you don't want anybody to get too much of a push, and maybe that's it. I guess that they feel like Justin Fields is getting an undeserved push. What I don't fully get about it too is, like, first of all, I watched every single snap this guy took at Ohio State, and he the one thing he was great at was passing the football. He never really ran. This is and everyone now looks back on that and they're like, well, it's because Ohio State has such better athletes than everyone, and all his receivers are wide open. And
I don't think it's
that was not the case. It certainly helps, but it's not. I mean, he was just dropping darts to people left and right. But beyond that, Kevin, what's confusing to me in the modern NFL, when you have a league where like running quarterbacks are kind of like commonplace now, it's no longer like a unicorn to have like a Michael Vick and like, whoa, holy shit, where did this come from? There are multiple guys who can run the football now. Does a quarterback? This is going to sound insane. Does a quarterback have to be an awesome passer to be a great, like, isn't it, like you said, if you're applying stress to the defense with your legs, who cares if you can like drop a ball into a tight window like Peyton fucking Manning? You know what I mean? Like, is that, am I off on that? Is like, cause I feel like in my view, it's like, if you march the football down the field consistently, who gives a shit how you're doing it? But I feel like that's kind of like the talking point with Fields is like, if he can't throw these specific throws, then he'll never make it. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe he can't do that, but look what he can do, which like no one else or very few guys that have ever played football can. Where are we at with that? Like trying to make sense of that calculus.
I always think, and I always view it, and I agree with you. I always view it from the prism of like, I'm sure he didn't invent this, but I know he popularized it in NFL circles. Like Bill Belichick is always like in the draft process. Don't tell me what a guy can't do. Tell me what he can do, because then you can find roles for him, build offenses or defenses around him, and let him thrive. Justin Fields can do enough to be an NFL star, right? Like that's what we're talking about right now. And I think that it doesn't. The bar is lower when you can use your legs because you can get defenses to change their identity, frankly. And you can do that with your arm too. Like I did a Joe Burrow story a couple weeks ago in Cincinnati where people were saying basically teams had to change their identity because of Joe Burrow being able to throw those deep balls, right? Or those short passes, whatever. But another Ohio State guy, by the way. But
thank you.
I think what happened. By the way, you don't want to claim Joe Burrow as a great Ohio State quarterback.
I do claim him. People get fired up about that. I don't know what to say to you. Like Joe Burrow claims Ohio State. He graduated. He graduated from Ohio State. What else? I mean, Evan Turner didn't even graduate from Ohio State. I think Joe Burrow is more of a Buckeye than Evan Turner is.
I thought I was going to graduate from Miami, and then a diploma showed up at my house. I swear to God. I thought I was going to be like, all right, well, I was just a couple credits short. I was being one of those guys, and then I don't know what happened, a paperwork error or something, and there's a diploma in my house in Orlando. Shout out to University of Miami. That's a whole different story. But anyway, no, I think that as you said, the stress that they put on defense is like he does not have to become Peyton Manning. I mean, what happened with Lamar Jackson was that he ran across I want to get the stats right. He ran on the GPS data faster than anybody in football that year. And he also was the most efficient passer in football. Okay. Jeez. And like you combine those two things, that's an MVP season. And it's a guy who probably should win a Super Bowl at some point in his career. Right. And I think that will still happen, but it's not, you don't have to do that every single year. There's a lot of daylight between like what Justin Fields is now and Lamar Jackson's 2019 season, right? Or you mentioned Michael Vick. Like there's a lot, even going back, like, Steve Young was doing this a long time ago. Like when you can use your legs, you get defenses to change their identity and scramble and try to figure things out on the fly. That's important. And so I don't think the bar is as high. And I also think Justin Fields will probably clear it. I don't think it's going to be a Jalen Hurts style leap, but I think it's going to be a leap.
That's all I wanted to hear. That's all. I think there's something wrong with like quarterback discourse in general, Kevin, because it feels, again, as a guy who kind of lives on the periphery of this stuff, it feels like people, the football viewing public believes that there are like 4 good quarterbacks in the National Football League at any one time. Everybody else is mid, or stinks. Get them out of my face. And I maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. It's just like very confusing. And as a guy who consumes a lot of basketball content, it feels like the NBA is trying to convince us that every team has like 4 stars on it. And it feels like the NFL is the exact opposite, where like the talk of the NFL is like every quarterback except like these 4 just completely suck ass. And since Justin Fields isn't one of those 4, that's just always been confusing. Like you mentioned Kirk Cousins earlier. I've always thought Kirk Cousins is like a very, very good quarterback.
Yes.
And somehow, like, if I tweeted those words right now, Kirk Cousins is a very, very good quarterback, there would be far more people.
A bunch of NFL coaches think that.
Yeah. So that's hilarious to me too. Is just that like being a quarterback is impossible unless you're the most surefire Hall of Fame quarterback we've ever seen. That everyone thinks it, which is just, I don't know.
Well, all right, I have a theory on this. So I remember Jason Gallagher was in my house a couple years ago. We were watching a boxing match. and he was joking around. It's a big one. I forget what it was. He was joking around. He was like, it was a bunch of people there, and he was like, everybody thinks they can be a boxing expert within like 30 seconds of watching boxing. Like everybody's like, I don't really know who these guys are.
That's true.
I don't really know who these guys are, and like whatever. And then like by round 3, they're like, oh man, he's really got to work the jab because it's just so obvious what's happening, right? Like if someone's beating somebody's ass, you can see that. And I think the reason the quarterback position is so over analyzed is because it seems obvious. Like you're either passing efficiently or you're not. You're either throwing interceptions or you're not. There's so many complicated things. I do think people overstate how complicated it is sometimes, but generally there's literally thousands of variables on a given play, right down to the temperature of the grass that is affecting the speed of the play, all that stuff, right? Let alone the routes and how the slot receiver slept last night, all of that stuff. Okay. And yet it just seems like the most obvious thing in the world. So if Dak Prescott has 15 interceptions, which he did last year, it becomes a referendum, not just on Dak Prescott, but the entire Cowboys franchise, how Jerry Jones is drafting. Right. Like is the curtain at Jerry World with the big old, the damn sun coming in, is that going to be closed? Like it's just a jumping off point for everything. Tua is another great example where it's like, we look at every single Tua pass and it's like, everybody just please relax. And that lends itself to like overstatement, wisdom of the crowds, which is not really wisdom of the crowds, where it's, we always close the door on teams too early because someone makes a tweet as a football Twitter entity, because somebody made a Twitter thread showing that Justin Herbert had too many batted balls last year. Like, I mean, it's just funny because the old saying, you can make stats do stats are like hostages. You can get them to say whatever you want. Right. That's actually now Twitter videos where now I could probably just like make a Kirk Cousins fan cam. And it's just like completely, like he just looks like a stud for 15 minutes. And I could get like maybe 30 people to like quote tweet it and be like, Kirk's going to be a problem this year.
You know what's worse is Twitter screenshots. Football screenshots, especially as it pertains to quarterbacks, is cancer. It's cancer to me. You see like people just take a freeze frame of a play and then draw a big circle and be like, look how open that receiver was.
Yeah.
Like why did he not throw it there? Which is just absurd to anybody that has any sort of, sometimes I guess it's right, but more often than not, you're like, Also, the guys who can scan the field really quickly are like, there's like 4 of them, and they're famous for doing that. Like Joe Burrow. Yeah. The whole thing is like, oh, Joe Burrow can use vision and get 5 guys out into the route and read about it and read the field. And it's like, that's why he's good. That's like his thing. That's his superpower, right? It's like, Mahomes has his thing. And so like, and then we'll screen grab like Baker Mayfield, we'll be like fucking Kyle Trask and be like, how did Kyle Trask not see that? Well, I don't know how to tell you this, buddy, but he's not Joe Burrow. I didn't know. You needed the screen grab. You needed the screen grab for that. Also, the receiver is almost always like 50 yards downfield, and the quarterback still has the ball in his hand, and then they screenshot it, and they're like, why did he not? And for him to have made that throw, he would have had to anticipate that the guy was going to be wide open. And when you took the screenshot, the corner like misread the route. So like the corner flipped his hips the wrong direction. So in order for the quarterback to have made that throw, he would have had to been dropping back, saying to himself, I bet the corner is going to just like completely fuck up this coverage as he's throwing the ball. Like it just becomes absurd. And basically
I would
what
also
I'm saying,
say
Kevin,
there's probably certain guys who are open because of what we're describing, is that they're open because the entire play is going the opposite direction. It would take across your body act of God in order for the guy to be open.
It's like a bubble screen, and there's a guy who's just like a decoy running downfield, and they're like, why did he not throw it to him? He was open. Speaking of quarterbacks, can you explain to me what the hell is going on with the San Francisco 49ers? Because I have been led to believe that the number one thing you should do if you're building a Super Bowl contender is lock in a good quarterback, either in the draft or however else you can obtain a good quarterback, I guess, Kevin. That the quarterback is the most important thing. I have been told that the 49ers are a Super Bowl contender. I'm also being told, like, everything I see seems to be that, like, they don't really know what the hell they're doing with their quarterback, but also they know exactly what they're doing with their quarterback, and Brock Purdy is the guy. But then Brock Purdy was, like, the last pick in the draft, and they drafted Trey Lance, and then they traded him, and they signed Sam Darnold, but they signed him just to, like, compete for the number 2 spot.
Right.
He beat out Trey Lance. Like, what I trust that they are a Super Bowl contender, and I know that they are they're loaded at every other spot and they're dishing out money to everybody. Are they smarter than everybody? Like, why is it that the 49ers seem to be the one team that are like, we don't really care that much about quarterback. We're going to pay everybody else, and then watch this. We're still going to compete for Super Bowls.
Well, Kyle Shanahan said the most important stat in football is yards per attempt, and Kyle Shanahan is able to generate that with basically anybody. And I think the Trey Lance thing is an admission of the fact that he just likes his type of guys. Kirk Cousins being one of them, Brock Purdy being one of them. I think he learned to love Matt Ryan, obviously, over the course of Atlanta. Reminds me a little bit, and this is a little different because it's college, but I want to shout out college basketball real quick. There's a great part of the Ian O'Connor Coach K book where he said that Coach K's biggest struggle was when he popped on the national scene and was able to get any recruit he wanted. And he started to just be like, all right, I'm going to take player 1, 4, 9, and 10 because they're all want to come to me, right? And then the other half go to Dean or whatever, or go to Indiana back then, right? And those teams just didn't have it because he wasn't thinking about roles. He wasn't thinking about how they fit in the system, all that stuff. He was just taking the guys who were at ABC basketball camp. Is that if I nail that? Is that right?
Okay. Yeah.
Is there a D in there?
Correct.
ABCD?
There is a, yeah.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Yes.
Just taking those fellas and just saying, come on to camera. And I think what Kyle Shanahan is actually quite good at now, and I think he's made some attempts to change, but it's just not going to happen, is he just wants his guys to do their role and just sit there and be like, all right, this is what you're going to do. Like when I did the Matt LaFleur story last year, like Mike McDaniel was telling me, like one of the things that really impressed all of the Shanahan guys was that LaFleur let Rodgers do a bunch of audibles. That's not their thing. They're kind of just like run the fucking play, dude. Like just like don't get all creative out there. We're gonna have guys open. Like that's what he wants. He wants a little bit of a robot, a Kyle robot. We'll have the listeners work on what that could cobot.
Yeah.
I don't want to go fishing here. But like that's what he wants, and I think that Purdy is that. I think Darnold can probably be that, and I just don't think they thought they had that in Trey Lance. I think that they thought there'd be I've heard the phrase scheme expansion instead of a scheme change, but it just didn't end up happening.
So if the Niners find success with Brock Purdy and win a Super Bowl, is it going to be in spite of him, because of him? Like what would that mean for the league moving forward? Or is this is it a copycat league situation where
what are you going to do? Hire Kyle Shanahan? Like, he's uniquely equipped to get everything out of his quarterback. Now I'll say Tua is worlds more talented than Brock Purdy. But Mike McDaniel went to Miami and made Tua the most efficient passer in the league last year. Okay. That's just what this offense is able to do if you have a talented quarterback and you can scheme up plays and he can do his job. And so I don't think it would do anything except say like this offense is really good. Play action really works. You need a fullback. Shout out to the Midwest. You need like an element of toughness and a great offensive line. Like I think a lot of times I fell into this trap early in my career where I think the big narrative coming out of every Super Bowl was we got to do what those guys did. So like every time Tom Brady lost in a Super Bowl, it was with the Giants, especially, it was always like, oh man, you got to get a 4-man pass rush on Tom Brady. And it's like, yeah, no shit, man. So this is actually kind of funny. This is actually a story for you. Do you remember I wrote about Bryson DeChambeau a couple of years ago, and I was like, this guy's changing golf. And you replied to me, and I think of this all the time. You replied to me, and you were like, oh, man, I'd never thought about hitting the piss out of a golf ball until Bryson DeChambeau.
It's true. That Bryson cracked me. I mean, it's Steph Curry in basketball that like Steph Curry in 2016 taught everybody that 3 points is worth more than 2. And everyone was like, holy shit, I never realized that if you make it from behind that line, you get more points. This changes everything. So yeah, I guess like, is there a world where 10 years from now, the Niners have won 3 Super Bowls with Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow is leading a Zoom call saying with all the quarterbacks, like, we are obsolete. How do we fix this? Brock Purdy has made our position obsolete.
Well, yeah, no. As soon as the Niners win the Super Bowl, the Chiefs are going to get rid of Mahomes immediately.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the Jets are going to be like, why do we invest in the quarterback position?
What are
We're
we
so
doing?
stupid.
What are
We
we
should have
doing?
doubled down on. It's funny because their offensive coordinator last year was Mike LaFleur, who's a Shanahan guy, and didn't work. So they brought in Nate
Yeah.
Hackett.
Speaking of winning Super Bowls and the NFC West and all that, explain to me this then now, Kevin, how the Los Angeles Rams have so quickly gone from winning a Super Bowl to now being projected to like are they in tank mode? Not in tank mode? Like
So they're
what
not in tank
they
mode. They're not in tank mode. A couple reasons for that. Just in the gossip mill, I really do think they want to win some games. I think if they accidentally remember, they still have some really good players. Matthew Stafford's still their quarterback. Cooper Kupp is hurt. He'll probably be back. Don't think he's gonna be out for the season. They still have Aaron Donald. Then they have a bunch of young men. Frankly, I'm not really sure of. Our friend Chris Long called it called it a shadow program back there with the some of the DBs and linebackers who are just young men. I just have not come in contact with as far as their names. And so I don't I don't know what this is. I mean, I know what it is. I can explain it. We talked about the Rams going all in for years, not having draft picks, and
right.
then signing a bunch of guys to cap dollars, and the Bills come due on that. Kevin Demoff, who's essentially their team president, wrote a letter last year or at the end of last year, just being like, "Yeah, I don't know, guys," like to the fans, being like, "This might be a little bit of a rough road." And I think that's the tax you pay on what the Rams did. They needed to accelerate the timeline and take over the Los Angeles market and be a place where Hollywood wanted to be and win
Yeah.
quickly while the window is open for Sean McVay. I'm a little surprised Sean McVay is back, only because of what he said in the past and how he's treated,
Yeah,
how he's waffled.
I'm confused by that too. I thought Sean McVay was going to didn't he put out a statement that I'm going to retire and just go bang my hot wife on a tropical island for the rest of my life? Isn't that? I think that was
I
the
think he
statement I
drafted
saw.
that statement.
Maybe that was
he left that in drafts.
maybe that
And
was
it didn't
Ball
send
Sack
it.
Sports that tweeted that statement out night. No, what I thought that was a thing. I thought like Sean McVay was this like a leverage play?
No, I don't think it was a leverage
Like
play.
what?
I think he was actually burned out. And I think that
At
you reach
37 years
mountaintop.
old, he's
I mean, didn't you describe us right now?
yeah, I know.
Oh,
That's why it stood out to me. I was like, I'm so jealous of Sean McVay. Like, if there was a world that I could win a Super Bowl in sports podcasting, whatever that looks like, and then just retire, I would do that. I would 100% do that. I'm going to retire the second my financial advisor comes to me and is like, you realize you could retire and like live like a king the rest of your life. I'm walking out the door and never showing my face again, ever. So that's why I mean, like, I was jealous of him.
I think sometimes these guys, I think there's two types of guys. One, I think we always retire guys too early if they never hinted at it. And so, like, I'll give you an example. I'm probably just looking to get mad, but Marvin Harrison Jr. picked up a little bit of an injury against Indiana on Saturday. And I just Twitter searched Harrison right after it happened. And it was just the most obnoxious people in the world being like, if I'm Marvin Harrison, that's the last college snap I'm playing. I'm just going to Arizona to train for the draft. And it's like, hey, has anyone considered that Marvin Harrison Jr. likes playing football and likes being at Ohio State University? Because he could have gone and done any number of things, including transfer to another school. He could have gotten millions of dollars in NIL money if the rumor mill is to be believed. That was he was offered that. I think a lot of guys who are in his world have been offered that. But it turns out what Marvin Harrison likes doing is playing football for Ryan Day and the Ohio State University. And so we always kind of do that, right? Where it's always like, well, the business decision. And I just think it just becomes reductive at some point. But with McVay, he was openly talking about it. And he was reporting. And there were people who were like really hooked into this industry going into the Super Bowl before the Bengals saying this will be McVay's last game. This will be Aaron Donald's last game. And then they just decided to do one last ride. And then somehow that became two last rides.
Two last rides. Hashtag 5 last rides.
I think there's a little bit, especially with McVay thinking about retiring. I think there's a little bit of an element. I'm going to spoil Mad Men, but it's been a decade, so just figure it out. Like, remember Don Draper like found peace and he's like, I'm good on advertising. And then he starts doing yoga and an ad pops into his head and he's like, oh, hell yeah, here we go. That's probably McVay, where he's like, you know what? I live in the Malibu Hills. I got a wife. I'm going to have a kid soon. Like, I'm good. And then he sits down to watch the Priyanka Chopra Amazon show, and then is like, oh shit, like I actually want to I have a bootleg concept idea.
Yeah. Right, maybe there is something to that where it's like I want to retire because I want to do. If I retire, then I can do whatever the hell I want. And so he got into that mindset, and then he sat down and thought about it. And he's like, honestly, whatever the hell I want to do is just coach football. Like that's all. As it turns out, whatever the hell having free reign to do whatever I want with my life leads me back to where I started, which is coaching football, I guess. Which
it's probably like I don't
get it, but
if we each got dueling $100 million deals tomorrow, right, to do something else, to like, I have no idea what it is, to be advertising pitchmen for something else doesn't require us to do podcasts, right? So, which is on the table, I would say, in the same way Marvin Harrison stuff was on the table. If you believe the rumor mill, that's what's being offered to us. But like, what would happen is like a week later, we'd be like, I really like sports, and I'm gonna start tweeting about it. And then like a week after that, you'd be like, geez, I'd love to just like fire up the pod mics. I'm just going to call my buddy and we're just going to do like 20 minutes. Yeah. And then like a month later, you're just podcasting again. And that's
doing it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I gave you $100 million right this second, Kevin, how long would it take you to be right back on Miami message boards, looking over like the recruiting rumors and all that shit? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, honestly, I've been on this pod for 40 minutes. And I'm itching to do it right now. Like, I'm just like, what are you doing, bro? I'm just trying to figure out where we stand with Jeremiah Smith. All right.
Speaking of McVay, this is kind of shocking to me, but seems to be the new trend. Is he the reason there are so many, speaking of jealousy as well, is he the reason there are so many young dudes as head coaches? There are 14 by my count.
Yeah.
With the help of Wikipedia, there are 14 head coaches in the NFL who are 45 years old or younger, Kevin. Is Sean McVay to blame for this? Is this Brad Stevens doing? Was he the first guy that got the...
Yeah. The Vikings were like, we got to go all in on a Stevens type.
Yes.
So I think it's related. It's not just like, all right, we're comfortable with young coaches. It's more that Sean and Kyle had a bunch of young assistants. They all came up together, and then all of a sudden they're getting hired for each other's jobs, right? And it's interesting because I think sometimes the timeline is busted. Because when I called McVay for that LaFleur story, I'm like, hey, what do you feel like you taught LaFleur? And he's like, I think the timeline's a little busted. Like, he was basically my boss, you know? And like, I think we forget that sometimes because LaFleur was hired 5 years after McVay was. So we think McVay was the alpha. McVay was actually like a little lower on the totem pole for a while, right? I'm under some of these guys. And so they come in, and that's why some of these guys are older. But then McVay comes in, has success, and everybody says, all right, we're going to hire his offensive assistant, his quarterback's coach, whatever, whether that's Zach Taylor. I mean, like, I was surprised. Maybe I'm stupid, but like when I was meeting with Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, the coach there a couple of weeks ago, someone in there mentioned he was all Big 12, which I remember. I remember those games against Bill Callahan was the coach, all that stuff. But I was looking at the Big 12 all conference team that year, and Chase Daniel was second team. And I don't really like, I feel like those were two different timelines, you know, where it's like, wait, Chase Daniel and Zach Taylor were in college at the same time.
Right.
I don't know why. It's like sometimes like I'll watch old Sopranos. I'll give you a great example. I'll watch like old Sopranos episodes. They're all old. And that Shin song was in the Sopranos. And I was just like, you know what I'm talking about? That their one song. Look it up. And but like it's like indie rock from the mid 2000s, right? And it's in the Sopranos. And I'm just like, no. These two things weren't on Earth at the same time. They weren't.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like with coaches, it's like I think we forget sometimes. Like everybody's got these different journeys, all that stuff, but like everybody's coming up together. The McVay crew is taking, Shanahan crew is taking over the world, and so everybody is getting the rewards for that now. And so you're just going to see they're all going to rise together. Like Zach Taylor is still going to be coaching Cincinnati in a decade, barring something crazy happening. So I don't think that's a trend of young coaches. I think it's just a trend of Shanahan McVay guys taking over the world.
It's like, this is the group, and now this group we're going to ride out. And in 20 years,
it's like Coach K assistants, but successful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Pivoting away from that, help me out with this. I don't really have an NFL team. I don't know. I don't need to go through my history of NFL fandom, but I do watch. I watch a ton of NFL football, and I care about the league a lot, and I get invested in teams that are good and not good and all that. With that being said, this draft class coming up is, especially the two quarterbacks at the top, it seems like people are foaming at the mouth for Caleb Williams and Drake May. The Cardinals have kind of made it very clear that they are tanking, is what I'm gathering. Like, they're not even hiding it. They're like, yes, we are tanking, which has already caused Caleb Williams' camp to come out and say, like, uh-oh. I don't know.
Well, also Cliff Kingsbury is is out on the USC staff. And so he can be like,
oh, yeah. So exactly. Yeah, you do not want any part of that organization. Help me understand which teams to just, like, as a neutral fan that's just going to be, I got the Sunday ticket and I'm bopping around game to game. Like, what are like the don't even waste your time with these teams because they're just playing a different game. Like, maybe they're not tanking, but maybe they're like, giving reps to the young guys to grow. Maybe they're like a few years away, all that sort of. What is the list of those teams where I can just kind of avoid starting with week one and, like, don't even bother investing in them?
I'd start with the Bucks.
Okay.
That one's pretty easy. Can't say the Colts because Anthony Richardson is such a.
They like him, right? They like him.
They took him 4th overall. So
obviously, but, like, even since they've drafted him, it's not like, well, the Niners like Trey Lance, and they do not like Trey Lance anymore. So
the rumor is that they traded up for Mac Jones, and then the internet bullied him into taking Trey Lance. That's legit. I actually think that's what happened. Everybody was like, nah, you didn't really do that. I don't think it's internet bullying him. It's more just being like, wait, we traded up for 3 for Mac Jones, who'd be available 10 picks later. That's a little weird. Anyway, I think that the Bucks are on the top of the list. Arizona, I'm going to pivot hard on what you just said. I think Jonathan Gannon is actually secretly hilarious. This is my take. Because, first of all, I don't know if you saw it, Big Cat shared it a bunch, like the video where he greeted the team and he's doing the do.
Yes.
So you got that. You have the fact that he won't name a starter for competitive reasons, which is so fucking funny. He's just like, it's a competitive advantage. Bro, you are running a 5A high school team out there, brother. What competitive advantage? And it's been Clayton Tune and Josh Dobbs. Right? Like, it's like, no, I don't want the competitive advantage erased. I think that's actually, I think we might have a secret comedic genius on our hands. Like, we might have like a Norm Macdonald. Remember when Norm Macdonald would go on roasts and just like read from a cue card
bomb,
and just totally intentionally bomb? They kind of feel like Jonathan Gannon is intentionally bombing right now. And I feel like we might have a master at work here.
That's great. Best case, worst case. I'm going to throw a few things at you. You tell me, because it's hard to suss out. It's hard to cut through the noise, Kevin, of like what's going to happen with some of these teams and players and all that sort of thing. I think the most obvious example is Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. DJ Reed, especially, saying that this Jets defense is going to be historic. My initial read on this was this feels a lot like, and I know nothing, but like I read these comments and I immediately was just like, Vince Young 2011 saying the Eagles are the dream team. That's like immediately where my head went, was like,
bro, do you know, I want to make sure I have this right, but I believe that the signing that prompted Vince Young to say it's a dream team was old washed Ronnie Brown. Which I just love that. We're just like, we got Ronnie Brown, it's over. Just pack it in. We got a pretty good receiving back.
Yeah, so what is a real? Give me a realistic window, trying to make sense of what to expect from the New York Jets this year.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, worst case scenario.
The best case is they win the Super Bowl, because there's shades of the Bucs with Tom Brady, where it's a fast young team with really good defenders who can get after the quarterback, and then a quarterback who can take care of the football and solve problems. Like Jameis Winston was just throwing downfield every single play, throwing 30 interceptions some seasons, going 30-30. And Tom Brady came in. It's like, there's a meme I saw, and I think about it all the time. Someone tweeted it right after they won the Super Bowl, that someone was like, Tom Brady really looked at a random team and was like, y'all want to win the Super Bowl? And like, and like,
you don't want to fuck around and win a Super Bowl real quick?
Hey man, what are you guys doing for the next few months? I have an idea. But like, Rodgers is not that accomplished as far as winning Super Bowls as Tom Brady, obviously. But like, there is that element where he just comes in and is like, all right, this is what it takes to win 14 games. This is what it takes to win 15 games and get the 1 seed, and then go from there. Which, by the way, Rodgers lost to that Brady Bucks team at home. But there's shades of it. Worst case is, so I wasn't that impressed with Rodgers last year, just generally. Now, but you can't destroy the Jets because they had to replace their quarterback anyway. They couldn't run it back with Zach Wilson. What are they going to do? Get Josh Dobbs? Like they got Aaron Rodgers for a second round pick. Like just from a value standpoint, it's not like they're going all in on this. And so I don't hate the acquisition, even if it doesn't turn out correctly. They didn't trade 3 first-round picks for him. It's not going to end up like some of these teams who have made huge bets on a player didn't work, right? But the worst case is the defense is not as good. It regresses. Defense year to year is always a little inconsistent. I'm not saying about the Jets, but league wide, it's hard. It's a much easier for a number one offense to become the number one offense the next year than it is defense, typically.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that. If Rodgers is off a little bit, the line, I'm like, that's the one thing everybody's focused on. The offensive line is not up to par with the rest of the roster. So I think they'll probably make the playoffs. My guess is it's somewhere in the middle. My guess is 10-win team, 6 seed, 5 seed, something like that.
Yeah.
And I see a pretty high floor. What it's not going to be is like a 4-win season where everybody gets fired.
Yeah, which is like, so there's chatter on the internet that it might be that, but then there's also like it's hard to make sense.
Chatter on the internet about everything, dude.
I know, Kevin, but that's where I live, and it's hard to be a guy who's very stupid about stuff because then you just like believe what you read, and and you start reading enough people that are like, this is a disaster, this is not going to work, it's the New York Jets we're talking about, and I'm like, this could be a train wreck, and then I look at the roster and I'm like, this team's going to win the Super Bowl. What are they talking about? Another thing I'm curious about, Sean Payton era in Denver. I saw Wickersham's article where he basically, my takeaway was that Sean Payton is just bullying Russell Wilson. He's just like stuffing him in a locker, I guess. He said, he's just like, you fucking nerd. I need a football player, not a fucking nerd playing quarterback for me. What can Broncos fans expect? Like what is... Yeah, what is going? How much does Sean Payton actually matter being hired to run the Broncos now?
He matters a lot, but kind of going back to what we said, like it's going to be really hard for the Broncos to compete in the AFC. There's a lot of things you can fix. Like I read a great book by Bill Parcells a couple years ago, or I think with Bill Parcells, whatever. It's like turning around a team, which Parcells did, which Sean Payton worked for Parcells. It's pretty easy. It's like a mixture of special teams, conditioning, and just like being a dickhead to people and being honest with people. That's a big thing. Yeah. And like coming in and just being like, all right, man, you really sucked on, not even to the tight end. Hey man, you sucked at blocking. If you don't block better in training camp, we're going to cut you. That kind of thing. Yeah. And I would imagine Sean Payton is not a million miles away from that because he worked for Bill Parcells. Pre-snap penalties last year were embarrassing for Denver. They were not a well-coached team. The clock management was abysmal. And so you just add in those little things and you're going to end up with what I think is a pretty decently talented roster, more talented than like Vegas or whatever, right? Patrick Surtain's one of the best players in football. You add that together and you're looking at a pretty big improvement. The other thing about Denver is like they got a lot of sports teams out there, but they're kind of on an island, like geographically, like not literally, obviously, but like it's just this huge ass region and everybody's obsessed with the Broncos. It's a little bit like a college atmosphere. Like when they're bad, it just sucks for everybody. Like it sucks for guys in like Montana are like, what the fuck? And and they can't like go watch the Rockies because they're not that into the other stuff, like they're not going to be like, I just saw a tweet that the Colorado Rapids suck. Right. So like that's out.
I just saw a tweet today. I want that to be the title of this show. This episode of the show is just in quotes. I just saw a tweet today that the Colorado Rapids suck.
If you want to get buzzed, that's how you do it. Just strap it, hop on my back, and let me lead. So I think they'll be better, and I think that's what Bronco fans need. They just need like 7 wins.
Yeah. Coach Prime. They need Coach Prime to just rub off on. I mean, the Nuggets just won. The Avs are good. They just need an adequate.
Aren't the Nuggets not on TV in Denver?
Probably not. Yeah, I don't know.
They've got some weird carriage dispute.
Yeah, like oh really?
Yeah.
Did you see a tweet that said that too? Was that the Colorado Rapids tweet?
There's this one guy who just tweets out random facts about what's going on with Denver teams. No, I'm sure everybody's excited about the Nuggets and the Avs, but I'm just saying, like, it is literally
it is Broncos country. Yeah, it is. It is. There are more often than not, every city in this country is like we love that our baseball team is good. We love that our basketball team, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, we want our football team to be good, and there are very few exceptions. The Los Angeles with the Lakers and Dodgers is probably one of them, but there are very few of
I'd
them.
say New York too. But also, you just
Yeah.
got, because it's hard. You were mentioning how everybody has to follow football. It's really hard for me to do any other sport that's not football, especially this time of year. Like I'm gonna float something here, which
Right.
is that my town, we have a direct train to Yankee Stadium. Okay, and so like I took a couple trains down there, had a couple Konas down there, having a great time, a little golden ale and a blonde ale, and but it's like, all right, so I'm following the Yankees like in June. And I honestly have no idea what the fuck has been going on with the Yankees for a month. I have no idea. And like in June, I was like watching, like I was locked in. I was listening to the Michael Kay show, listening to all that stuff. And now I'm just like, I have no idea if Aaron Judge is playing anymore. It's just like, it's hard to follow anything but football because nobody brings it up.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And even here in Chicago, I am a Cubs fan. I go to as many games as I can since I moved here. People care immensely about the Cubs. They still get great attendance. The Cubs are red fucking hot since like mid-July.
I saw that.
They are. Yeah, they are winning. Yes, they are. Like I'm the juices are flowing for October baseball in Wrigley, Kevin, and still even the vibe of the city is still like, it's week 1 coming up, and we got the Packers and Justin Fields. Like the football will always reign supreme, and that's the way it goes. So I'm sure it's the same in Denver, even with the Nuggets and the Avs being good. Before I let you go, some off topic stuff, which you're always better at. I hope you don't take that as an insult, but I always I never. Your career, this career you have, get it out of my fucking face, Kevin. Not good. Bring in the other stuff. No,
I don't know if I can play this, tell the story anymore, but there's a famous story when Louis C.K. was trying to do the drama show he did, that he called Joe Pesci, and Pesci was like, "Yeah, I watched the show. I don't think comedy is for you." He's like, maybe acting, but like, I don't like this comedy thing.
Well, that's how I hate that I'm here with it, but this is how I think of Kevin Clark less with NFL. Like when NFL stuff happens, I'm not like, who I should text about this? Kevin Clark. But when the Miami Hurricanes are going to the Final Four, when Paolo Banchero is winning Rookie of the Year, I find myself waking up at 5 a.m. to watch F1, I'm thinking of Kevin Clark.
So just to be clear, you don't consider me an expert on the most popular thing in America that funds lucrative careers. You see me as an expert more on Miami basketball, which has, gets like 6,000 people a game.
Yes.
Yeah. At F1. That kind of thing.
The thing,
magic. Yeah, I got you.
The thing that you've devoted your career to, and now is going to put food on the table for your new child. I don't care about. I think you suck at. No, I don't think you suck. That's why I wanted you to talk about football. You're so good on all the other stuff. I gotta ask you about the other stuff. Miami basketball Final Four. Where does this rank for you in terms of being a sports fan? This run that the Canes went on.
Yeah. So it was the 2009 Magic finals will always be the best because of just what that was. I was in college. I was going into my senior year. All my friends were still in town. Like, I don't think anything will ever top that. This was number 2 and a close number 2 because there's a couple of reasons for it. Have you been to a Final Four as an Ohio State fan? Have they gone since you've graduated?
They made it, but I didn't go because I had no money, and it was like right after I graduated. It was 2012. Okay. They were playing in New Orleans, and I thought about going, but I was like, it costs how much? And I bailed, but they haven't been since.
So it's the most fun thing you can have if you went to a school, because the scene is the hotel lobby bar at wherever you're staying, and I think they were at the Hyatt, something like that, right? And you just post up there all of Friday and Saturday. And it's just, and Miami, just to be clear on this, Miami's a very small school. And with football, there's a lot of not bandwagoners, but guys who didn't go to the school, who live in New Jersey or Georgia. And they're just like, I loved Ed Reed. I loved Ray Lewis. I love,
I saw the 30 for 30.
Yeah, Alonzo Highsmith, whatever, right? And so there's a lot of that at football games. And when I go to Chapel Hill to see Miami play, you're sitting next to people who are just like, I've never stepped foot in Coral Gables, which is amazing. But with basketball, there's none of that. And so it's literally just people who went to the school. So you're just sitting there in the hotel lobby, and it's just like a reunion of everyone you kind of know, but you're drunk. And so you know them a lot. And it's like groups coming together. And it's like a reunion of anybody who's ever gone to Miami who likes sports. And it was so much fun. And then I'll take it one further, which is that, FAU and San Diego State are playing in the first game. And what was funny is that we're all like, everybody's saying hi to everybody. And I'm right behind the football players section, right? So this guy named Mike Harley Jr. is sitting right next to me. Braxton Berrios right in front of me. But then it's like Michael Irvin, Edgerrin James, Reggie Wayne. They're just right in front of me. Okay. And so people are coming down to see them. But then I know some of those people. I don't know Reggie Wayne and those fellas. But so like, it's just this one big reunion of like sports fans from Miami. And then I went to the bathroom, like, I don't know, like right towards the end of the San Diego State game. And like the tunnel behind everybody, behind the section, was just like everybody I've ever met. It was like like a weird fever dream. It's just like, hey, there's this guy from my fucking junior year communications class. He's here. He's had 11 Bud Light tall boys. And it was just like the vibe. I don't think you can improve on the vibes. I will say the funny thing is that it was such a good vibe that I was barely paying attention to the San Diego State FAU game. And my seats were like 16th row baseline, like great seats, right where the San Diego State made the winning basket. Okay. And we're just watching it, and everybody's kind of like clapping for FAU because it's South Florida. Yeah. And so like with like 5 seconds left, I remember saying to my buddies, I was like, hey man, I think we should just like watch this possession. Like, I think it might be good. And then San Diego State comes down and makes one of the most famous shots in Final Four history. And literally, like, it was cool to see San Diego State celebrating, but then like everybody in my section just like within 3 seconds just went back to be like, all right, so anyway, like how you been? Like, it was just
it was like an inconvenient, like the roar of the crowd was like inconvenient at that moment.
Bro,
You're
I'm
like,
exchanging numbers with my old buddy. He doesn't have my 347 number. He doesn't have my I'm trying to yell my number to him so he knows.
You mind keeping it down a little bit? We're trying to talk here. That's great. Are we worried about John Ruiz? What the hell's going on with that? Are we worried that the NIL money is going to be seized by the authorities?
A couple things on that. Number one, no issues. Kane's connection, the NIL fund is stepping up. Everybody will be made whole from what I understand. And I also say that, maybe the rivals are right and we're broke. Okay. Here's what that means. Any recruiting success going forward is just because Jim Larinaga and Mario Cristobal are dogged recruiters and can overcome any money problems in the world. So the 5 stars, the 4-star that Miami just got, it's just because Jim Larinaga is elite.
They're just selling the program. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell the rivals that we keep getting recruits. It's just because there's some things more important than money. And that's living in Coral Gables at a beautiful resort campus, getting the best education in the state of Florida. And I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe the Florida State fans and Florida fans are right. Like, sorry, man, we're broke. We're just too good at recruiting.
Oh boy. Kevin, I can talk
to be clear,
forever,
we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine on the recruiting trail. Just call that an educated guess.
Yeah, I think you'll be just fine.
Hey, I think that if rival fans think that there's only one shady billionaire in Miami, they're going to be in for a rude awakening.
You're the man. I can talk to you forever. I will let you go. You're very busy with NFL kicking off. Best of luck with the new show. Best of luck jumping off the Ringer ship. As a man who did it myself, you're in for a rude awakening. I'm kidding. You're not. You're gonna kill it. You have no idea what's coming, Kevin. No, it was you were one of my favorite people there, and I enjoy keeping in touch with you. Especially, I say that complimentary that I think about you with Miami basketball because that's you and I texted throughout the year. I remember you texting. I think you texted Tate and I both like in January, and you were like Miami basketball Final Four. And as I am wont to do when you send complimentary Miami texts, I probably just double tapped it with a ha-ha. Like I just like
straight to ha-ha.
I was like,
straight to
ha-ha. Yeah, I was like, this fucking guy again with his, Miami takes. And then you proved to be right. So that's why
a couple things
Miami
on that.
Basketball expert.
Number one, I booked my hotel in February for Houston. And then it didn't even matter because none of the teams had big fan bases. So like it was the same price had I booked like the week before. But I did book whatever Courtyard, Fairfield, and whatever the hell I stayed in down in Houston. The other thing about that is I had a kid in January. And so I remember almost nothing of college basketball season, including, this is a crazy story. I'm going to tell it as quick as possible. So we win the ACC tournament. We have Duke on a Friday night. I'm on paternity leave. My kid had just been born. He's like 6 weeks old. I have so much time on my hands. Okay. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch some game film of both Duke and Miami and just like really hone in. I got my kid here. He's taking these 2-hour naps. So I'm going through all the games, and ACC does a great job of putting highlights on. I'm going through, and I see this Wake Forest Miami game, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch this. So we look pretty good, and I'm like, man, I don't remember this game at all. Like this must have been like right after I had my kid or right before. And I look up the date, and it was the game I just watched because my brain was so fried because I'm like getting 2 hours of sleep. And I'm just like, bro, I just watched this YouTube highlights of a game I saw an hour ago and I'd have no recollection of it. So that's what happens when you have a kid. Good luck to everyone out there.
You just watched the Wake Forest game like 10 times and you're like, holy shit, we're on a tear right now. We want to, we're looking good.
I probably saw you text me like, we own Wake Forest.
We fucking own Wake Forest. They got no answer for us. Oh man,
adjustments. We're just doing the same shit over and over again.
I gotta have you back on college basketball. Like I want to have you on, and we don't even mention football at all. We strictly talk ACC basketball. We will make that happen. Best of luck with the kid. Best of luck with the new show. Best of luck with just football season in general, Kevin. You're the best. Thanks.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Man.
Love you.
Quick break to talk about our friends at BodyArmor. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by BodyArmor. From sports drinks to sport water, BodyArmor keeps us hydrated all day long, whether we're talking, watching, or even playing sports. BodyArmor is our go-to choice. Real hydration, real ingredients, packed with electrolytes, vitamins, and nothing artificial. BodyArmor has great tasting flavors like strawberry, banana, and blue raspberry. The best athletes in the world hydrate with BodyArmor. Ronald Acuna Jr., Christian McCaffrey, Alex Morgan, and the latest athlete to join the team, Joe Burrow. Joe Buckeye Burrow is what they're calling him, I believe. I'm drinking BodyArmor right now, right this second. I have the BodyArmor Sport Water in my left hand. I'm going to take a swig. It is all we drink around the office. And also, I was shopping at Costco the other day. I saw the variety pack of BodyArmor. I scooped that up. I'm a strawberry banana guy. That's why I got it. But buying the variety pack at Costco introduced me to the fruit punch. Any strawberry banana fans listening, close your ears. I might be slowly transitioning to a fruit punch guy because the fruit punch is also delicious. But that's the joy of BodyArmor. There's a bunch of great flavors. And it is also available in stores nationwide. Head on over to BodyArmor store on Amazon and get yours today. BodyArmor is the best. They've been a great sponsor for us on this show and Barstool as a whole for a while now. And it is great stuff. Go check it out. Go get BodyArmor right now. All right, thank you to Kevin. He's the best. I freaking love him. Got to get him more in the fold. Full transparency, I probably was like scared to ask Kevin to come on the show because he worked at the Ringer, and like I don't know, I don't really feel like I burn bridges there, but also I sometimes I'm an overthinker. TJ, we've talked about this on the show a million times.
Yeah.
And I just like sometimes I overthink things, and I'm like, I probably can't reach out to a Ringer guy. They'll probably tell me no. None of them in reality would, but I'm just too scared to do it. And then Kevin's not at the Ringer, so I was like, I'll reach out to Kevin. He's the man. And I was going to say that I meant to bring this up in the interview, but I had the sense that Kevin was both busy because it is opening night for NFL and he's doing 1,000 interviews trying to promote his show. But also he and I could talk forever because that's what we used to do at the Ringer offices. I was going to bring this up that I want to get Kevin when we move into the new office in Chicago. Whenever Kevin comes to Chicago, I have to bring him to the Barstool office because he will just like he might die on site when he sees how we dress around here. the one vivid memory I have of Kevin was showing up at the Ringer office. I was just wearing like gym shorts and a graphic T-shirt, kind of what I'm wearing today, honestly. Like I'm just wearing a graphic T-shirt and I threw on a pair of gym shorts. I went in to do my show. We worked at a podcasting company, TJ. We weren't even on camera ever. At least, like, I'm on camera at Barstool a million times more than I was ever on camera at the Ringer. I was never on camera at the Ringer, never. We didn't have cameras. So I would just dress like this, and I remember Kevin, I think he, like, punctured his lung. He was laughing so hard when I just walked into the office. Because Kevin is, he's pretty self-aware about it, but, like, he is... Pretentious is too mean of a word, so I won't use that. I didn't use that word. Nobody accused me of using that word to describe Kevin. I did not. But he's just like a well put together guy. I mean, he cares about what his hair looks like. He cares about how he's dressed. He's very professional. We'll put it that way. And he was far more likely to show up to work to record an audio podcast with no camera on him, wearing like a suit and tie. I don't think he ever actually did this, but he was more likely to wear that than he would be to wear gym shorts and a t-shirt. So I remember one day I walked in, he's like, "We have to get a picture together." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, and then he just put it on Instagram and he was like, "There are two different types of people that work at the Ringer." And he just like was dunking on me for what I was wearing. And I don't know. I think about that often when Kevin enters my orbit, because he's gonna come to the Barstool office and just like faint when he sees how we all dress around here. So I just want to walk. He's gonna come to the office, and I just want like someone on the social team to just walk around and have him. Megan Making Money did that one day where she was like just judging everyone's fits.
Yeah.
I want Kevin Clark to judge the Barstool fits and just see what he has to say. But Kevin's the best, and everybody go check out his new stuff, please. He's one of those guys that's a colleague, but also I consider him a friend, and I consider him great at his job. And it would mean the world to me if you helped him out, because it is. I joked with him, but it is a scary thing to the Ringer or anywhere else. Like, you get comfortable in your role in the media space, you take a risk, you bet on yourself. That can be scary for people, and I don't mean to say that Kevin's scared and he'll be successful and all that, but every little bit matters. So if you're so inclined and you enjoyed my interview with Kevin, please go let him know and go support his stuff. By the way, I mentioned talking with Kevin that like I do like the NFL, and I don't really have a team, so I don't know if that's worth clarifying as we're getting going on week 1. I think, TJ, I'll go on record as saying I think the Bears might be my team. So my backstory is this. The Indianapolis Colts, when I was growing up, were not great. They got the number 1 pick with Peyton Manning for a reason. They were garbage. I remember it was at 94, Harbaugh led them to like maybe the AFC Championship against this. I remember the Hail Mary. The Colts had a Hail Mary to beat the Steelers. Was that the AFC Championship? It might have just been like the first round of the playoffs. I don't really remember. But there was like a Hail Mary in the playoffs that this was before video review, and it was also when the TV was really grainy. And was it 94? I don't know when it was. And there was a Hail Mary at the last second, and everybody in Indianapolis thought that the Colts caught the ball, and then they ruled it incomplete. And I remember like losing my mind, like, are you fucking kidding? He caught the ball. That was like the closest I ever came to being like a real Colts fan, because I thought it was cool that a team from Indiana was like on a national stage like that. But the people I was around didn't care about football. My parents didn't really care that much about football to where I wasn't raised to like be a Colts fan. That wasn't something that was important. We were a basketball family. Funny enough, I wasn't a Pacers fan either, because I have talked about that. I didn't like Reggie Miller. I was the only 90s kid in Central Indiana that did not like Reggie Miller. But yeah, so I didn't grow up a Colts fan really, because they were just kind of like football, like NFL football just kind of was not that interesting to me. The Colts stunk anyway. By the time Peyton came along and they were good, I felt like a fraud for cheering for the Colts, because like, I was just a bandwagoner. So like I did, when they won the Super Bowl, I was cheering for the Colts in that Super Bowl. I was always cheering. I love Peyton Manning, but I also like was never going to be a guy that like was getting a horseshoe tattoo on my calf to prove how big of a Colts fan I was, because I was like, I'm a fraud. So I was never really that's where I am at with the Colts. The team I did like was the Minnesota Vikings, because my father was roommates with Butch Carter, who was played in the NBA and then was a NBA head coach for a while at Indiana. And Butch Carter's little brother, is a guy by the name of Chris Carter, who was a Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. And when I was of age coming up, the football we would watch at my house is my dad would put on Vikings games when they were on, and he would be like, Mark, you see that guy that's dominating this game? I used to babysit him. He used to be dropped off at IU's campus, and Butch and I would look after him, and I would play catch with him. And he's like, this is crazy that Chris has become so good. So when the Vikings would play the Colts on the rare occasions, I would like Dad would take us to the hotel, and like Chris would go to dinner. We'd grab dinner with Chris or like meet Chris. And I'm like 8 years old, like losing my fucking mind that like there's this guy on TV that like my dad knows, So like I kind of became a Vikings fan when I was growing up. I have a soft spot for the Minnesota Vikings. I learned that they choke always. They always choke. They will always find out. They're a very tortured football franchise. So I mostly cheered for the Vikings my whole childhood. I remember jumping off the bandwagon with the Vikings when Brett Favre threw the interception against the Saints in the NFC Championship. That was because when Favre joined the Vikings, I was like, this is already weird. I had kind of, like, by the time I'd hit high school, I kind of had become a Vikings fan. I'd watched so many of their games and cheered for Chris so much. Chris retires, but like at that point, there were so many fun Vikings teams that I was like, I think I like the Vikings. And I hated the Packers, obviously, because of that. Then Favre joins the Vikings, and I'm like, this is really weird, but like, damn it, if it means the Vikings will finally get over the hump, this will be worth it. And then for Brett Favre to kind of do the long con where he's like, I just wanted to give you hope just to like throw a interception when I could have just thrown the ball away and we could have kicked a potential field goal to send us to the Super Bowl. I was like, I this makes no sense why I'm a Vikings fan. Like that was the moment where I just kind of looked in the mirror and I was like, one, they're tortured. Two, they're Minnesota. I have no connection to the state of Minnesota, the city of Minneapolis, anything of the sort. Three, like the whole reason I got into the Vikings does it, like Chris Carter's been long gone. Like I don't really understand why I'm doing this to myself, like pretending to be a Vikings fan. So I just kind of like cold turkey quit the Vikings. And that's a long-winded way of saying like I don't really have a team, TJ. So like I still have a soft spot for the Vikings. I will always cheer for the Colts, but I'm not a Colts fan per se. But like if the Colts get good, I do want the same with the Pacers at this point. If the Pacers are ever competing for titles, I will jump on the bandwagon. I do want Ben Mathurin and Halliburton and all those guys to be awesome. But I know I'm a fraud because like anybody I went to, the second I start pretending to be a Pacers or Colts fan, everybody I went to school with is going to just be like, you're a fucking fraud. They're just all going to come at my throat. So that's where I'm at. And now I've moved to Chicago. I'm a Justin Fields guy. I feel like maybe that's the move. It kind of conflicts with like being a Vikings fan and a Bears fan. I don't really know how I'm going to pull that off, but I think I just might be a Bears guy. I don't know.
It's worth jumping on while you're here, I guess, and like they have some momentum behind them. I think they're going to be all right.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's a fun time to jump on the Bears bandwagon. And I've talked about this on the show too, that I do believe in cheering for the team in the city you live in. I believe in that. And like there are exceptions, obviously. If you're someone that's from Boston and you moved to New York, don't probably. Yeah. I wouldn't suggest cheering for the Yankees. Like I get all that, but like if you grew up in Cleveland and now you live in Phoenix, I don't see the problem in being like I hope the Cardinals play good football this year. You know, like I don't think that makes you a bad football fan. I think it makes you a good member of your community.
Enjoy the city you live in.
Enjoy the city you live in. So that's where I'm at. I do love the NFL. At this point, like I wasn't raised consuming every second of NFL football, but I watched every Sunday. I just like sports. But the NFL was always just like kind of another sport to me. It was never like king in our household, if that makes sense. It was just like, yeah, there's sports on. What are the sports on today? It's NFL. That's what we're going to watch. But I have grown to love it. I think the league is a ton of fun, and the parody is what I love most about it. I love that you kind of have no idea going into it. You have some idea, I guess, but you don't really. There are like 10 teams, it feels like, that can win the Super Bowl. That's fun, and that seems to be a rarity, especially when you compare it to the NBA, which does have more parity now, and that should be celebrated. But like the NBA still has a long way to go until you still need the NBA. You still need like like a megastar and a great sidekick to win a title. And the NFL, like we were talking about the 49ers, like they do have a ton of talent on that roster, but like it's not like you just look at the quarterbacks and say, okay, these are the 5 best quarterbacks, so those are the only 5 teams that can win a Super Bowl. That's not how the NFL necessarily works, and that's why I like it. So I will be watching a ton of NFL. I don't know how much we'll talk about on the show. If it tickles my fancy, we'll talk about some stuff. But that's where I'm at. I'm probably going to be a Bears fan. But more than anything else, I'm just a Justin Fields fan. I'm very invested in Justin Fields. I want Justin Fields to be awesome, and it's kind of hard for Justin Fields to be awesome and the Bears not be awesome. So, and if Justin Fields puts up insane numbers, but the Bears are like 500, people are going to knock him for that. So ipso facto, the Bears have to win for me to be satisfied with the Justin Fields discourse. So I'm a Bears fan, I guess. I'm a Bears fan.
Nice.
As long as he's there. So
I want to pay attention to. I'm a Giants fan, but it's like pretty far down on my sports fandom rankings. Mostly I'm just a fan of Rutgers guys in the NFL because that's
Yeah.
been easier to do. Surprisingly, like having a guy like Isaiah Pacheco is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of where I've gotten with that's where I got with the NBA, where not to be a douche that name drops or whatever, but it got to a point where I knew so many guys personally playing in the league that I was like, it feels kind of weird to, like, if I'm being completely honest, I'm cheering for my friends. I'm not cheering for.
You just do like the Leo meme where you're like, oh.
Yeah. So it's like I cheer for Mike Conley, and I cheer for Gordon Hayward, and I cheer for Eric Gordon, and I cheer for and Evan Turner when he was in the league, and Greg when he was like, I was cheering for those guys to be awesome. So
I think that's totally justified, by the way. If you know somebody, you're allowed to.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it sort of happened with NFL too. Is like I every NFL Sunday I would just like sort of gravitate to watching the Ohio State guys, and then by the time Justin Fields had left Ohio State, I was like, that's my guy. I mean, Justin Fields is the guy. That's wherever he goes, I will follow. and then I literally moved to Chicago because that's what people don't understand, TJ. They think I moved here for this whole new office we're building. No, not the case. If Justin Fields had been drafted by the Packers, I'd be living in Green Bay right now.
Of course.
That's facts. Before we go, some shout-outs. Team player Titus is here to shout. I want some Barstool. I want to give some Barstool shout-outs. Some in-house shout-outs to what's going on at this company. I want to start with the Most Dangerous Game show. I love this show. I didn't watch the first season, if I'm being honest. But I've watched the first 2 episodes. Roan is an awesome host. Yeah. Francis steals the show. I don't want to spoil anything, but also everybody who says that is always spoiling something.
Yep.
So I should just stop while I'm ahead. I should catch myself right now.
I will say we got an all-time moment, but might have missed another one because Mincy was originally on the roster for this show.
Are you serious?
But it was filmed in the window after he was fired and before he was hired.
Oh, my God.
Which the moment we got out of that was Dana being the only person that was too fat to fly in the first episode, because Mincy probably would have been right on that line as well, I would think. But that's an incredible first episode. It's like, oh, you got eliminated on the first episode.
That would have been good yak content though. As Mincy finds out he's got to lose 20 pounds
in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, that would have been awesome because I think he would have done it.
Yeah, I don't know how he would have. He's like a New Orleans guy. I don't know if he's exactly the dangerous and disgusting challenge type guy. I would love to see him on that show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a moot point because Dave said we're never doing this again.
Right.
But I do watch it and like think, how would I fare at this?
Yeah.
If I was to
skydive.
By the way, when KB and Nick, I think it was KB mentioned like, because I got heat for that when I joked like I don't want to do anything more than my contract.
Yep.
And KB said, how do you feel about the Barstool reality shows? I interpreted when he said that. I didn't think of this. I didn't think of I thought he meant like the office drama, basically. Like Barstool is a reality show in and of itself.
Correct.
I interpreted his question of like, are you going to participate in the Barstool reality show as like, are you going to just start shit at the office?
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
The answer still like I sarcastically said I don't want to do anything that's not my contract, but that's how I interpreted in the first place. And then I was like, oh shit, that's right. They do like these reality shows. I guess past it.
Yeah.
Past it.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying it. And remind me who Jackie is at this company.
She's KFC
Radio's producer. Okay, because she was killing me this last episode. Like she was great. She was I became a huge fan of hers. Just watching her navigate. I freaking love it. My girlfriend's really into like the chat, like this sort of show, but I never really watch it. She's always got it on, and I'm the guy that's like on his phone, like overhearing stuff and popping in here and there. And I say I'm not watching, but then I have thoughts on who gets voted off, all that sort of thing. This is really, I really love the Barstool Most Dangerous Game show because it is the right mix of like, you got Pat who thinks he's like a genius at the game. You got like people that like just very openly are like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, like as far as strategy goes. And on the like the polished, like the challenge type shows, it feels like everybody's like that's their profession, is like, I'm a professional reality show person,
right.
And they're almost like, it's like Johnny Bananas is like too polished at like the game.
Yeah.
And that's why I find this fascinating, is because you just have like regular people that are trying to navigate it, and it's really good. It's really, I mean that sincerely. So kudos to everybody involved in that, and Rowan's an awesome host and is really good at stirring the pot. So there we go. Shout out to them. I also want to shout out another show that is very successful here that I am new to the party on actually following, which is Pick'em. I watched it this morning. I have it.
Yeah.
Every Thursday I'm waking up and I'm watching it like that with my morning coffee. It is Rico. It is Dan Big Cat Katz. Maybe you've heard of him. And it is Dave Portnoy. And Rico and Dan have been on this show a lot. I knew a lot about that. But this Dave Portnoy guy, what a character he is, huh? What a character. We got to get him on this
Big
program.
bro? I love that guy.
No, I freaking love it. It's awesome. It's I always consume the clips of Pick'em. I've never like actually watched the whole show, and I felt like this is a good time to like start watching it because one, I work at the company now, but two, I am flirting with the idea of becoming a writer, you know?
Ooh.
I don't want Rico to like you can't in week 2 have Rico getting a big head, you know? Like you kind of need to keep him a little hungry, you know? So I don't want to say I'm fully on, but in the interest of full transparency, I am flirting with the idea of becoming a writer. I'm just feeling it out a little bit.
You should volunteer to go on his new debate show that he's starting.
Oh, yeah.
Get some healthy debates going.
That's a good. But the problem with this is, Rico, if you're watching this for whatever reason, I don't know if you want me to become a writer because I have a knack for like jumping on the bandwagon. Like I'm a kiss of death at Barstool.
Yes.
I bought the Wake Up Mincy shirt. We know what happened there. I became a big time Billy football guy. He got kicked off Pardon My Take by his own choice, but like, you know, that happened. So I'm scared like what will happen if I throw my weight behind Rico. But I really enjoyed Pick'em, and
it's the best.
That's not breaking news, I know, around these parts, but I wanted to shout those guys out nonetheless because it's hilarious. It's a hilarious show, and I literally watched it this morning. It comes out on Thursday morning. I woke up this morning at like 6 a.m. and I'm having my morning coffee watching Dave losing his mind about his air conditioning. And
my favorite is every single week there'll be a flood of comments, or a good amount of the comments will be like, can you guys get to the picks already?
Yeah.
I'm 50 minutes in, you guys haven't talked about a game yet. That is not the show.
That's not the show.
There are other shows out there that get to the picks. The show is what they're doing for the first 50 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
The anxiety chamber that they put Rico into for
why
an hour.
Why does that happen with Barstool fans where like how can you consume so much Barstool content and not understand what the content, you know? I feel that way with the Yak where like whenever I go on the Yak, like the most recent time I went on the Yak the other day, we did Shay's fantasy football draft.
Right.
And I saw so many people saying like this. I to be clear, I was annoyed by Shay's draft, but I also like went along with it because that's what makes it like. But the people are like, why don't they just do a normal league? This is infuriating.
Yeah,
it's like that's the Yak. Like that's what the Yak. If you're watching the Yak, you know that there's no world in which like if you sent all of the Yak cast to the bowling alley and like go see who's the best bowler, you're not just gonna bowl a game.
No.
And see who wins. Like, there's going to be all sorts of insane
It's going to be two people on the same lane at the same time, throwing two balls at the same time. Who can hit more pins?
Let's spin the wheel to see who has to, who has to run down the lane and
a wheel of bowling ball weights between 1 ounce and 100 pounds.
Right. I mean, there's going to be just a bunch of insane shit, and it's always been confusing to me the people that like watch every second of like a show like the Yak or Pick'em or whatever else, and don't seem to like fully understand like what that show actually
Advisors
is.
Too. It's like, why are they yelling so much?
Yeah.
Like, this is the show you're watching.
Or this show, like, why is Titus just like fucking rambling about nothing? It's like that's what the show is. We put it.
Your name's in the show.
My name's in the show. You know what you're. It's me. God damn it! Forget my guests. I don't have my guests on to talk. Like that's not. I don't want that to be the like. It's not the Mark Titus and guest show.
Yeah.
Fuck these guests. It's about me. And then the last thing I wanted to shout out our guy Dukes. Who should the MVP should have been? Has been said out loud in an empty room in my house no less than 5,000 times, TJ. Yeah. Who should the MVP should have been? I just have it stuck in my head. I'm sitting there just like in the shower, and I just say out loud, who should the MVP should have been?
Did you hear the remix?
I did, and I wanted to show who is this guy, because he lives in the Barstool world as well.
FSU Brando. He is a top reply guy out there.
Yeah, I see him a lot, and I don't know. Are we pro FSU Brando?
Yes.
Like in the Barstool? That's what I thought, but I just want to make sure. I always get scared because I don't know if there's like a backstory with these guys where
he's good.
Okay, because I followed him. I followed him based on the remix that he made it do. Who should the MVP should?
He spins those out quick.
God
too.
damn. Oh, I love working at this company. It's so funny. But shout out to Dukes for being a good sport about that too. Like he's does he still run our Twitter account?
Dukes, yeah.
He does?
He's involved.
He's like chilled out though.
Well, sometimes he goes to he has to go to like PLL events and ask people who should the MVP should have been.
Dukes, I demand of you, I guess I could just tell you this off air. I don't know why. I use this show as like it's my only form of communication with people. But I'm going to demand of Dukes that we, from our account, the Mark Titus show account, when college, maybe the reference will have died by then, but I want like the big games. I want to put out polls. Who should the MVP should have been?
Yep.
For big games in college basketball. The Champions Classic gets played early in the season. I want a poll that says who should the MVP should have been. And we put all the candidates, and people get a vote on it. I just want that to be a running thing. But I freaking loved it. Who should the MVP should have been is, to me, that I think that's gonna be timeless. I'm gonna revisit that video in like 5 years and just laugh my ass off.
Yep.
So that's it. Those are my Barstool shout outs. I wanted to shout all those people out. There you go, TJ. Anything else?
I just wanted to thank all the people that reached out after the salad promo that we put out.
Let's go.
I think I probably have gotten like between 200 and 300 DMs from people with
really,
like a really, really overwhelming amount of people reaching out.
So let's talk through this. Two things. One, is it too much? Do you have analysis paralysis? Do you feel like you have because there are people saying eat nothing but red meat, and then people saying do not touch red meat.
Yeah. There's I posted a picture of like a protein bar, and like I got 50 DMs about how protein bars are bad and 50 about the best protein bars. So
yeah,
I guess a little bit, but I'm sifting through. If I don't respond to your DMs, I'm seeing all of them, but there's just a shitload. It's pretty cool. So thank you guys.
The other concern I have, and I'm bringing this up because I love you, TJ, and I want to help you along this journey. But are we worried that speaking about it, because I remember learning about this phenomenon when I was going to write my book, that sometimes talking about things before you've reached your goal is a bad thing because you get the satisfaction of having reached your goal without actually having reached your goal. And like I would tell people I'm writing a book, and everyone would like jerk me off, like, holy shit, dude, that's so hard. Good on you. And then I never had actually put one single word down on the book. And then I was like, oh yeah, that is kind of happening. Like I don't want to actually do the work now because I'm getting the pats on the back. Do you think that's going to be a problem for you?
I think so. My concept behind tweeting about it at all in the first place was to hold myself accountable for it. Like, it wasn't to be like bragging or anything. It was just to be like, if I stop tweeting about this, it means like I failed at like holding myself accountable.
Okay.
So now there's just more people behind me that sort of like lit a fire under my ass to like.
That's awesome.
And I have to keep doing this because now it's more than just me. But I'm doing this for me.
Are you a tough love guy?
What does that mean? In this context.
Well, just be like, would you respond if people are like,
oh, I would, yeah. If somebody
like,
sees
you piece
me,
of shit,
yeah. If you see me at a bar or something drinking a beer, like
slap it out of your hand and say, you lazy piece of shit. I can't believe, If someone sees you take the elevator up one flight of stairs,
right? If you see me at a deep dish pizza spot, feel free to call me.
Feel free to. Okay, all right. That's awesome. My advice. Can I give unsolicited advice? Because I went down this road, and people reach out to me every so often. I not anymore because I think I don't really have a physique that screams like desirable anymore. But I don't think people look at. I've become a little skinny fat. But people every so often do reach out to me and want my advice. So I'll tell you, TJ, and everyone else, the things that worked for me and were very easy, very, very easy lifestyle changes, because one of the struggles was like, you can't do them all at once. You can't go from like house and a large pizza every night to like, just snap of a finger. And when I would try that, it would just inevitably I would fail, and I would just go right back to where I was. So like the big things for me, number one was don't drink calories, like unless it's very, I would just drink as much water as I possibly could. If you're drinking soda, I still drink a lot of Coors Light, but just being more mindful of it. And Coors Light's actually great. Like I used to drink a lot of craft beer, and then like I actually like got into Coors Light because I was like, how many calories in this? That's it.
Right.
All right, well, I can drink more of these. Number two, taking the stairs and walking when the opportunity presents itself makes like a massive difference, and it's actually not as hard as you might think.
Yeah.
So like I would when I moved to LA, like our ringer parking garage, we'd have to like park. I would always like park on like the 5th floor, not on purpose, but that was just where all the open spots would be. And then we worked on the 1st floor, and I would just take the stairs, and like even just like little shit like that, or just like walking up 5 flights of stairs. That was like an easy way to change. And then, just like not when you do inevitably want Oreos and you do inevitably want like junk food, just like, a little bit of portion control goes a long way. Because eventually you find that like eating 6 Oreos, the diminishing returns start kicking in.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't need 38 Oreos. Because like the 37th Oreo, actually, I don't even really taste anymore. I'm just like shoving it into my face. So I got a little better of that, where I was like, I don't want to deprive myself of a treat every so often, but I just want to like, what if we just had like an actual like look on the label of what the portion says.
It's supposed to be.
And then just have that portion. And then you'll find that like, actually that was kind of adequate. Like that's all I kind of needed was just that. So there you go. Those are my 3 things that I started doing. And I was like, wow, this is insane how much weight I'm losing and how much better I feel.
Thanks, man.
But I'm fired up about this. This will
Me
be
too.
awesome. I'll hold you accountable too.
Cool. Yeah.
And
If
we'll,
we're out or
We're
whatever.
gonna be so TJ stands for toned and jacked, dude. That's what people are saying. That's what the streets are saying. He's toned and jacked. Let's fucking go. I'm so excited. All right. That's the show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Everybody that our YouTube numbers are going up. We're little by little, man. This is fun. And subscribe to the show with Brandon, Mostly Sports. The next time you hear my voice on this show, right? Correct? We will have launched.
It'll be the morning of the launch, yes.
Yeah. The next time you want to hear me on a Barstool show, for sure that I know that I will be on, it will actually be Mostly Sports. It won't be my own show. That'll be the next time we will have launched the show. So go subscribe to that. That's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to this show is still gonna exist. We're going to still push this thing along, and I'm excited, especially college basketball season. We're just going to become college basketball sickos, I think. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here, but like I do want to do NBA stuff. I do want to do other sports. It is fun to. I will cover. I don't really think of myself as like covering them. I just like talking about shit. That's kind of what I've always wanted the show to be. But who am I kidding? When college basketball rolls around, we're just gonna become absolute perverts about college basketball, and I'm excited for that. But everybody enjoy week 1 of NFL. Enjoy the college football slate as well. We will see you on the other side. Goodbye.